it's the next level.
A pencil for a pen, an apple for an orange, a dance for a smile.
For Mr. Layton's eyes only.
But these trades don't always go the way you plan. You give more than you get. The terms change. You end up having to trade with yourself. I staked my future on a single trade. A life with him for a place on this train. It's been 19 revolutions.
Welcome back to the show, panelers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Daphne.
And this is a spoiler-full podcast for Snowpiercer Season 2, Episode 4, A Single Trade. And our synopsis is, as the Big Alice crew are granted shore leave on Snowpiercer, Layton and Wilford have differing opinions on the future.
And that they do.
Yes. So what did you think of this episode in general, Daphne?
Well, you know that Miss Audrey is one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
We don't often get a lot of screen time for her. So I was pretty excited when the episode started and she was doing the opening monologue. And it didn't disappoint.
Absolutely.
I feel like the episode was packed full of lots of little things and some information that may prove useful later on.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. I was really glad to get this Miss Audrey kind of episode. And I was, at first, I didn't think there was a lot in this episode until I watched it the second time. And then on the second viewing, I was like, man, there's a lot in this episode. I remember the first time watching it thinking, I'm a little disappointed that we're not seeing Melanie. And then when I realized that, you know, story-wise, to hold the tension, they were going to have to make us wait until the end to get the ping.
Mm-hmm.
But we did get more after we heard the ping even. So that was good.
Yeah, I think for me, we got this backstory, a little bit of backstory on Miss Audrey's relationship with Wilford. And it seems really scary, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell, and I feel like Lena Hall does such a great job with this character, showing us the emotion behind this relationship that she had with him. There's this fear that you can see. And I'm, in watching it, yeah, I will bring up more things later on when we're talking about our numbers. I was happy to see that we got to see a little bit of that complexity of her character plus the background of her relationship with Wilford.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things that, depending on your background, that could be triggering in this episode. So I hope
Yes.
no one, like, you know, they've showed, this is the second time, I think after Kevin's death, they showed the card about suicide awareness. They did that
Yes.
same thing this time. So there's definitely some things in here that, depending on what your history is, could be triggering for some people. So hopefully everybody's okay after it. And, you know, so I just wanted to put that out there.
It definitely was. There were some pretty serious undertones during this episode. So, yeah.
Well, as always, I will put it to you ladies first for our top 5.
All right. Well, my number 5 is Josie and her choice. Because I really believe it was her choice to go with the doctors Hedwood, or Frankenstein, as I call them, to go down there and see what they could possibly do about all of her frostbite. Because, as we all know, Melanie caused a great deal of damage to Josie last season. It was great to see she's alive, and I'm kind of deciding now that I think it's good she's alive because I want to see what she can bring to the table by being kind of a spy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that even though she talked to Layton about whether or not she should go, I do think that she knew already that she was going to go. because she can be eyes and ears for him and be able to, get the lay of the land on the other side of the border.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was a little bit scared when I saw that she was put in the same room with Icy Bob.
Yeah.
Ugh. And why did Wilford want this trade? I feel like that's kind of tied into it. I'm not really sure why he wanted this trade, other than he wanted to go see Miss Audrey. But I feel like Alex said to him, hey, why didn't you just invite her here? I think that's too simple. I think he likes to play the complex game.
Yeah, there's definitely something more to him bringing Josie down to Big Alice. And I had a little bit of this in my notes. You talked about her influence last week and the control she has. So I love that she pulls in the tailies and she gets to tell them, to support Leighton. She tells Leighton kind of that she's going to do that. And that it's, like you said, it's her choice. I absolutely just love that scene when the tailies are all banging on.
Oh, that was...
Or as Strongboy is carrying her.
So powerful. So powerful. And what about getting to see Miles?
Oh, I can't believe last week I had forgotten the kid's name. I felt bad because I was going to ask that question. Where is the kid from season 1 who wanted to be an engineer? And so I was so relieved when we saw him this time that I was like, oh, there he is. And we find out that not only is he still studying to be an engineer, but he specifically wants to be a life cycle engineer.
I feel like it was life science.
Something like that, so that he can be one of the first people to leave the train.
Yes.
And go start the colonies. I thought that was really, really great. And you could see Josie, just the pride she had in that for him. Even the little bit we got from her eyes and her reaching out to him was just a great scene and well acted by all parties.
Yeah, she didn't want Miles to see her like that. She even said that to him, that she didn't want him to see her like that. And Miles is actually in Life Systems. That's
Life
the
Systems.
name of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so he even told Josie that she's his hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really powerful thing, because seeing Miles, even though she didn't want him to see her like that, I think that will do more to fuel how she proceeds on the other side of the border. And he grew taller. Like, that was the first thing I noticed.
Yeah, he did.
Miles, oh my gosh.
I'm so glad they didn't try to write him out or change actors or something. And so we may not see much of him because I don't know how old the actor is. I thought the actor was younger than that. I didn't look up his age. So I hope we don't have like a Lost in Walt situation or
I know.
Walking Dead and Chandler Riggs situation where they have to write him out because of puberty or something like that. So
I know. I hope not, because I want to think that he's going to come into play further down the road. Like, there might be something he can do to help Melanie with all of this work, because I do think he's a genius. And, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you just said genius, because that goes right into my number 5, which is Alex kind of showing off her intelligence and her vocabulary by calling Miss Audrey Mr. Wilford's paramour,
Yes.
and she uses that. Then she says something about calling the night car a cabaret. And I just thought that was great. And I chuckled every time I heard her say cabaret. And I thought it was interesting, though, that Wilford forbid her, like in an angry tone, almost like,
yes,
like he's asserting his dominance or something over her to tell her not to use that word. And it kind of surprised me that he showed that emotion, and maybe that just shows us how deeply him and Miss Audrey, they have this connection, or this whatever it is.
Yeah, she definitely hit a button.
Mm-hmm.
She had a nerve with that, because the first time he kind of let it go, but the second time he was immediately agitated after hearing that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's a lot to the Audrey Wilford story. I think it's something that's very complex. It's something that goes very deep, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all unravel so that we can learn more. We got glimpses in this episode.
Yeah.
But I also appreciated that Alex is very, very smart. There were some other interactions she had in the episode today that I really enjoyed as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And she's just showing us there's a lot more to her. And I've got some more in my notes and in my numbers about Alex, and more of what she said later. So.
Yeah. Well, my number 4 is basically Wilford and his control of Big Alice. And it's a much bigger picture, too. It's not just Big Alice. It's really what was said last week. What Bennett said to Leighton about Wilford loving control. I feel like we got some glimpses of that this week, not only in the conversation he had with Alex, but also just watching the way that they feed the workers, how everything just comes down and you're given a tray and it has, you know, your food is covered up and they lift the lid and then they give it to you. It seems very regimented and it just seems very, very under control.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, you know, the workers don't seem to have a lot of happiness or emotion. They're just kind of doing what they're told without any, you know, without thinking. They're just doing it.
Right. Well, and even when he announces who's going to go to the night car, you know, he kind of gives them a little briefing. And that was so show. There was no way.
Of course he wasn't. Alex told Amelia that she was going to be selected.
Yeah. And so he knew exactly who he was, and he lets them know, this is not for you. This is for me. I'm the one. You just are going to be background. And even Alex, when they get to the night car, she kind of fades into the background and just kind of takes a seat and kind of waits for everything to happen around her.
I noticed that as well. And he was very, very calculating and said, this is my night. It's a chance for him to meet up with old acquaintances. So I think he had definite plans for what he wanted to accomplish. He seemed very determined that Melanie was not going to make contact and was going to be dead. And you could see his face. There were two things that you saw when that was announced. His face and Alex's face. Alex's face is one, I think, that's the most interesting because she's kind of this mix between... She's happy that the connection's made because she is connected with her mother. But she knows that he's going to be agitated about it. So her look kind of captures both of those emotions, I think. Because it's really calm. Yeah. But it's also a look of... She's definitely looking like she's thinking.
Well, and I think she's worried. She's worried because I don't know if she knows exactly what Wilford has planned, but I think she knows he's got to have some sort of plan to not let Melanie get back on the train.
Oh,
that's just my total speculation, but I think she either suspects it or she knows outright that he doesn't want Melanie.
Yeah, I think Icy Bob, I still stand by what we talked about last week, that Icy Bob is a part of that.
Exactly.
And I'm also concerned that Josie is going to end up being part of that too. In some weird way. But the difference is, even though Josie's angry with Melanie because of what happened to her, she understands that the future of the world is at stake and Melanie is important to that process.
That's interesting. You bring that up. That could be a really interesting storyline if Josie has to save Melanie's life from Icy Bob or to get her back on the train. That would be...
Could be interesting. I don't know how close it is to things, but it's just a theory that I'm tossing around. Now that Josie's down there with the doctor's Frankenstein.
That could be interesting. So, all right. So my number 4 is, I think I've got this correct. And if I'm wrong, or if you remember it differently, let me know, because I think there were 2 things that were confirmed for us in this episode. I think the first is that they've been traveling for 7 years, because that's what the woman says when she eats Amelia, when she eats the fruit. She says 7 years. It's the best thing I've had in 7 years. And then I believe that Miss Audrey in her monologue at the beginning said 19 rotations. So that means a rotation is less than a year.
Yes. I believe so. And I think Wilford also said that he had been mourning Miss Audrey for 7 years.
I believe we heard that in earlier or at some point 7. So I think 7 years has finally kind of been confirmed. And I think we've heard that a couple of times, that they've said how many when he was talking about the revolts, I think he said there's been 4 rebellions in 7 years or something like that. So last season. So, okay. So that's really all I had for my number 4, was just a quick recap of understanding that it's been 7 years, 19 rotations. So so I just think that's interesting that we still don't know exactly what route they're taking. And obviously, we talked about this last week. They can obviously change the route while they're going because they're going to come back to that station in a month instead of however long it should take to get back to that
It makes me
station.
wonder, are they going over the Bering Strait into Siberia? Are they going to turn around over in Russia and come back that way?
Right.
Or is there just something else?
Is there going to be a shift, and is Big Alice going to become the front of the train and Snowpiercer be the back?
That could happen.
At some point. Because I know trains, they sometimes do that.
Yeah.
You know, if they have engines at both ends. So, and I've seen trains, even they don't have engines at both ends, reverse.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot. There were a lot of things that we saw in this episode that I think are just planting seeds for the future. I feel like it was one of those big episodes for that. My number 3 is Zara as a wild card because I truly think there's potential in her to be so much more. I mean, she's carrying Leighton's child, and we saw them standing during the party, and they both have their hands around her tummy. And I was thinking about that and wondering, I'm not sure that's a good idea, because you don't really want Wilford to see that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that you don't want Wilford to have that intel that Zara's carrying a child. So
exactly. You don't want that information, because he's already proven that he likes to play these games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid that he would end up doing something to Zara. But I really enjoyed the conversation that Zara had with Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to join hospitality to help Ruth bridge this connection between Ruth and Leighton, because Leighton doesn't seem to trust her, or Ruth doesn't think Leighton is trusting her.
Yes.
And I think she wants to work that out.
Absolutely. I had a little bit of this in my notes. Is just that I love this idea of Zara joining hospitality, because it gives that, like you said, that bridge between Ruth and Leighton, that person. And there was an interesting exchange there when she's dressing Leighton. I thought it was really cool that she dressed him almost exactly the opposite of how Wilford was dressed. I don't know if Zara suspected Wilford would come in, with this really, was it purple? What was the color?
It looked like a lavender dark.
Lavender.
It was kind of,
okay.
A purple. It had a purple hue, I guess.
Yeah, but definitely a very rich man's kind of I'm important tuxedo look. And she had Leighton, you got to look like a relaxed kind of
regular man, a regular, like everyday man.
Yeah.
Neighborhood guy. Yeah.
I really, really liked that whole interchange there. And there's a point during that where he says something about their relationship, and she says, well, we're not together anymore.
Yes.
And I thought that was another, so you remember last episode, she told him to go be with Josie.
Yes.
I think it's an interesting dynamic that we were wondering if this was going to be a love triangle, or it looks like anyway, that's not going to be the case, that Zara has, she's conceded the fact that he's going to be with Josie, but have a child with her, however that's going to work out.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. And I don't know about Josie's long-term life expectancy.
There's that as well. I didn't even realize she was still alive, to be honest.
Well, as far as I knew before this season, she had died.
Okay, so we didn't have a confirm that she was still alive until this season. Okay.
This season, yeah. I didn't see anything that indicated
cool.
that. I don't remember anything that indicated that.
I don't either, and I didn't go back and rewatch season 1. So
yeah,
I'm now regretting even more and more that I didn't go back and rewatch season 1 before.
There's so much, but the last episode always makes me sad because so much happened.
Yes.
That was sad, and we kind of got into that a little bit in this episode.
Absolutely, and that takes me right into my number 3, which is Till. Till and her breakdown as she's looking at all the faces that died in the revolution. And I love the fact that she knows the exact number of people. And I think she says 2,747. And then she corrects herself and says, no, it's 46 now because a chef just died.
Yes.
And it was just amazing to me that she's keeping such good track of that. And whether that's going to weigh on her guilt-wise, or whether it's just, you would think Ruth or somebody in hospitality would be more likely to be keeping track of those exact numbers. But, Till knows how many people died in that train car. I mean, I think LJ says 170 people in that first class car
Yes.
that was ejected. And so Till knows exactly how many people are on Snowpiercer. And then I love that she's continuing this investigation, and she tells the Tailies, I told you I was going to take care of it after they attack that Boki, the
Bokeh.
breachman.
Yeah,
The
the
breachman.
breachman.
And I didn't get an impression of whether she questioned them or questioned Boki about if he's continuing to deny that they did the finger cutting or not. But it seems like she may have gotten that. I mean, what do you think? Do you think
He
she
said he didn't do it.
But he was talking to the Tailies who were attacking him
Yeah.
at that point. He wasn't, that was before Till came in. So I don't know if they gave Till that I would hope they did, that she knows that they denied it, even though, because you would think they would be the logical choice to be suspects because they're
Yes.
clearly Wilford cultists.
Absolutely. I'm very suspect of them. I'm starting to be suspect of everyone.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, but I also question, how would anyone on Snowpiercer know that Wilford was still alive and that he was driving Big Alice? Like, unless there's some communication that no one knows about.
Well, but the attack happened after.
Yeah.
So no, after, right? So they know that Wilford's alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's part of the mystery. And I like that we're getting this, a little bit more of this mystery. It ran the whole thing of Lila being the one who killed the guys and cut their balls off.
Yes.
Last season was disturbing, but they kept that investigation kind of going just kind of throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really cool. And so we're getting the same thing here. We're going to get this investigation of who did this attack, probably throughout the season. And it's probably going to be something revealed at the very end that it's going to be somebody that we would like least expect. It's going to be like a Taily who's, it can't be a Taily because they were all stowaways. It's got to be somebody like the janitors or somebody like that. Maybe it's Lila. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And what I meant by they didn't know that Wilford was alive is before Big Alice hooked up with them, the person has to be, I find it hard to believe that it's just anybody. Because it's someone, there's two trains of thought I have with this. One, I feel like it's just a Wilford loyalist who, as soon as the tail hooked up, or as soon as Big Alice hooked up, was able to communicate with Wilford and, swore allegiance or whatever. Because I have a hard time believing that someone could have been on Snowpiercer and had the information that Wilford was still alive and Big Alice was a thing.
No, I'm with you on that. It's somebody. It's somebody who their whatever was just awakened, and either Wilford ordered them to do the attack just to put kind of fear in the Tailies, or to cause this tension between the Tailies and the breachmen.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that you're right, that there's somebody on Snowpiercer that had some sort of contact with Wilford after Big Alice. I don't think it was before. After Big Alice attached, and he was able to manipulate. It's going to be someone like in the movie, you had that guy who was like almost the equal to Mr. Wilford in the back.
Yeah.
And when he finally admitted that he was the one who was manipulating things in the back, it's going to be somebody like that. It's going to be somebody who, and it might be a Taily. It might be one of the stowaways. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's so much. I feel like we got so much information in this episode, but we also now have more questions.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be a week-to-week thing of figuring it out as we go and trying to piece it together as best we can. So your number 3 leads into my number 2, which was about Till's breakdown and her following Boki to the church and then going in and actually looking at the photos of Clay and Gabby and Santiago and Riggs and breaking down about it. Because I think she has tried to use this technique where she distracts herself by focusing on her job, focusing on anything else but the pain of loss and everything that's happened. Because it was a huge deal for them. I mean, they all fought. She saw people die. She lost her relationship. So she's really in this kind of weird headspace where she doesn't really know who she is.
Interesting. I like
At
that.
least,
That's a
yeah,
good way
that's
of
what I
looking.
think.
Yeah, she's kind of and she's trying to find her identity, kind of.
Yes.
I like it.
And so, remember, I think his name is Pastor Logan.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to talk to her the week before and give her, I think it was a St. Christopher medal.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't want it. She didn't want anything to do with it. So I think for her to end up in the church is kind of interesting because she was so against it. Like she didn't want anything to do with, he was trying to help her.
Yeah.
Because he could see that she was struggling and she didn't really want anything to do with what he was trying to do to help her. And I think this episode, it just all came to a head. I think this whole promotion to detective has been a great distraction for her. And even though she's trying to figure this stuff out, going in to see all of the memorials really hit her and brought her to a place she really didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But now she's there and now she's got to figure out, okay, well, I'm going to have to face the things. You know, she's carrying a lot on her shoulders. She's in tune with this focus on death and loss, but she's trying to do her job. And I feel like Pasta Logan is really trying to get her to face the things that are upsetting her so she can move past them. Mm-hmm. Which is not something that she really wanted to do. She just kind of was running away from it by focusing on everything else.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think.
I think you're right. And it's going to be interesting to see how she deals with everything going forward, continuing on in this. So,
yeah,
very good.
It's definitely going to be interesting. The one thing I wanted to mention, though, about Boki that doesn't tie to this number, but is something that I think we have to really think about. It's a tiny tidbit. Boki built bridges for Wilford.
Yeah, so he's another one of those ones that like Leighton talked about. He asked, well, who all had contact or who had close contact with Mr. Leighton prior to the train? And I don't think anyone in that little circle, like Roach said, I was his security, Ruth was hospitality, you know, they all, like he hired Ruth, Miss Audrey, but none of them mentioned that Boki.
No.
So that is interesting that it could be, there could be a closer tie there than
maybe. But I think too, they talked in several conversations. There were discussions about him building tracks and building trains, building bridges. Like he was doing all of these things. Mm-hmm. You know, he had the money. He just went to town and did all of this stuff. I think his involvement in how this all happened is maybe more than what we've seen.
Okay, I see where you're going. So he may know more than what he's letting on as far as what's out there and available. Like there may be more supply cars out there. There may be more other bridges out there.
Yeah, there may be more out there than what we think. I think he might be more complicit in the event that caused the Great Ice Age. And I stand behind my statement last week. I don't think he wants it to end.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right. Are you Wilford or Boki? You're saying Boki's in that?
Wilford. No, Wilford.
Oh, I think definitely Wilford does not want this to end. Wilford
doesn't.
wants to stay in control. And that's interesting, though. I didn't think about him having any kind of complicity in causing, but it would make sense, you know, if he had kind of an idea it was coming, he knew to set this whole thing up because they wouldn't have set it up beforehand.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have, I mean, kind of like what we're going through right now. Nobody was going to know that this was going to happen unless they planned it and foresaw it. Interesting.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot more. This is only episode 4. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to uncover this season.
Yeah. So
I'm excited.
My number 2 is Alex and Lila Jr.
Oh, so much fun.
I thought it was interesting. And at first I kind of thought is it a little coincidental that they would know each other? And then I thought, well, no, they're roughly the same age.
Yes.
They're both from rich families who were involved in each other. Like Mr. Wilford knew who Lila was. And so it makes sense their families would know each other, that they may have gone to school together. And so I'm okay with that. And I loved the whole, when they're joking about their moms being dead and, Lila said makes a face of what her mom probably looks like, and then Alex was like, she makes a face of her mom like holding the handle of the sled. It was a little creepy, but that's. But I also thought we did a very interesting comment that Alex makes, and that's that she says something like either she or Wilford or both of them didn't realize that she would care as much for Melanie as she cares for her.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting because she also told it to the one person who is definitely going to scurry back to Wilford at some point and let him know that, hey, Alex cares more about Melanie than you think she does,
Yeah. The whole time I'm thinking, isn't it lovely you're having this little reunion? But you cannot trust LJ.
No.
I don't know what side of the building she's on. I feel like she's going to sell her information to the highest bidder because, like Wilford, she takes great joy in manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like this is, she's a younger female version of Wilford. She's manipulative. She likes to control the situation. She likes to get away with things. And I feel like even though she might be down, she's definitely not out, and she's going to figure out how to make her way. I think she thought her life was going to get better if her parents were gone. And I think she's now learned that that's not the case.
Yeah. Interesting. That is an interesting take because wasn't sure, but that's interesting. Yeah. I'll have to think about that one for a bit and how she felt about that, about her parents.
Yeah.
So that leads us to your number one, I believe.
Yeah. Yes. So my number one is Miss Audrey. She's a key. She's a poem. We got a lot of info in this.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that she was a high-end escort since she was 18. And basically, I feel like she sold her soul to work for Wilford.
Mm-hmm.
She was his exclusively for years. She said she was paid in gold, but she lost so much.
Mm-hmm.
And reconnecting with him opens a Pandora's box. And I think we saw that. I think we started to see that. And I'm really worried that she's not strong enough to be able to fend off going back to that place.
Mm-hmm.
She said, it took a long time for her to wash her hands of him. And I think that it's an old, comfortable place, even if it's a little bit icky.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a comfortable place that she knows, what it feels like.
Right.
So for her to go back to it, I'm really worried about her, about her sanity. Because Wilford set this exchange up. He wanted to see Audrey. That was part of it.
Yes.
And the piece that we saw, one of the biggest things, was he was in that magical room, which I can't remember what the name of it is.
I don't either. I hate that I can't remember what they called those in the first season.
But they went into that room so she could show him what she's turned the night car into. And they're in a bathtub, and he's having her slit her wrist, which is a memory of his.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells her, but I saved you.
Right.
Well, did he save Kevin?
No.
I mean, I don't know. We don't really know if Kevin's dead.
Oh, now that you say that, I guess you're right. We don't 100% know that he didn't save Kevin there at the last second. He could have.
I mean, they've never said that he was alive or dead.
Mm-hmm.
They said that he wasn't well.
Right.
Well, if he's recovering from this, and that whole thing in the bathtub was creepy the first time.
Oh,
it's just as creepy when you see that it's Audrey in there with him. Mm-hmm. He's a very,
It's a cult. It's a very cult. Yeah, that's the only thing I think of is having this mind control over someone. And Miss Audrey was my number one as well. So I love that you bring her up when we're going to talk about her, because she does at the beginning, she assures Leighton that she's not going to get drawn in by Mr. Wilford, that she's going to be able to stay out of his kind of his thrall, and then she sings that song that is very pointedly about getting back together with him. And so we don't know if that's her trying to manipulate him or her, it's one of those things that when you're someone who manipulates people, in some ways you can be manipulated, but also you manipulate back.
Yes.
I guess. I don't know. I'm not a calculating person. So it's interesting though. And at the end, I got the impression at first, at the end when she's talking to Leighton, that, again, she's assuring him. She says something like, he's right where we want him to be. But then when we see her doing that little dance, the last look she has is at the W.
Yes.
And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm torn about who is she telling the truth to? Is she telling the truth to Leighton? Is she, with Wilford?
I feel like she wants to be truthful to Leighton. I feel like it's what she really wants. However, when you're dragged into something that's an old hat or an old habit, it's really hard to resist. You might be able to resist at first, but over time, if it's a continual picking at, it's going to weigh you down. So
yeah, exactly. So that is our top fives. We both got a few notes. Let me see. I'm looking through mine to see what we haven't talked about already. We talked about the weirdness of his fetish. That was just weird. I don't understand.
I don't know what it was.
I don't understand foot stuff, if that's what that was. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see the notary. Roche says something about he'll take the names to the notary and find out if they're registered passengers or not. And so I'm a notary here in Oklahoma, and I got to notarize something just today. Somebody came to my apartment to get something notarized for them. So I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see the notary. Then, of course, I love Leighton's little leap of faith, talking about the fact that we have to have a leap of faith about Melanie, actually making it and being safe. So I thought that was cool.
Yes.
I'll run through mine and you can run through yours.
Okay.
We didn't talk about the female Dr. Hedwood. She kind of shushes the male doctor when he starts to kind of give away what the frostbite treatment is. I like that encyclopedias are the source of value.
Yes, that was so
Snowpiercer.
cool.
Yeah, that information is knowledge. And then we even see that between Lila and Alex. She gives her, was it the M? The M through W or the M or something like that?
It was the W, and she pointed out woolly mammoths.
Woolly mammoth, that's what it was. Okay, I knew it was mammoth.
W stood for weed, which is what she had.
Right, and it's also Wilford, and there's a lot of...
W stands for a lot on this show.
And I think everything else I have, we talked about. So...
All right, well, what I have is...
go ahead. That Wilford popping the balloon was just a dick move.
Totally.
So
that was him. He was not pleased because he wants it to fail. He does not want the world to go back to normal because he wants control of everything.
Right.
So it's really creepy. I mean, it's becoming more and more creepy. He's becoming more and more creepy, and I think Sean Bean is killing it.
Yeah.
As Wilford. He really is doing such a great job of being this charming, suave leader who has sinister ideas that we don't know all of them yet.
Yes.
Okay, so 1. We learn that Alex's bunkmate has a name. Her name is Amelia, and she was supposed to work on the laundry, but she ended up being a seamstress. And one very cool thing that we learn, she's Australian. I loved it when she and the last Australian realized that they are not the last Australian after all. I thought that was so awesome. I feel like we needed something like that. And he's given her his lucky goggles, which I think he's trying to set her up to be something. But I'm still concerned that she's going to end up in Wilford's bathtub. Yeah,
if she, takes him up on this offer of kind of communicating, however they're going to communicate, I don't know. That scares me.
I'm really scared. So. And again, we talked about the bridges, but I just keep going back to who is the mole? Is it someone that we trust really well? Or is it someone on the outskirts, like that we would think might be a mole? I don't know if they're going to go in the obvious direction of having it be Boki, because that's very obvious that it could be Boki. Or is it going to be somebody else?
I'll throw out a possibility, and it just came to me this second, so I've not fleshed it out, but what if it's Roche?
He is the one that I don't suspect, and so I think anyone is up for suspect. For you to be suspicious of, because...
We've never actually seen his wife. He's talked about her, but,
I don't think it's Ruth. That's all I can say.
I don't think it's... if it was Ruth, I think she would be even more...
I don't think it's Ruth. I don't think it's going to be Ruth. I don't think it's anyone that had that definite connection like that. I don't think it's her.
Okay. It's going to be somebody
Yeah.
kind of under the
I
surface.
have a feeling
kind of.
they're going to go in a different direction, but I don't know. It's really difficult to try to figure it out because this show has done a great job of throwing you curveballs when you're not expecting it. And I like that because you don't often get that with TV, with cable TV anymore. I mean, unless it's like HBO or one of the big stars or Showtime, a lot of shows, they don't always give you like a complex road. Instead of going from point A to point B, you have to go through all these other steps to get there. And so I feel like that's what we're getting. And I like that. That's one of the things I like about Snowpiercer.
All right, so we got a couple of quotes here. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, so I have two. Wilfred, when he's talking about Miss Audrey, I kind of alluded to that earlier, where he says, "She's a poem, you hear me, witchy bird of grace that holds the soul of the train. She's a key." And I really like that quote.
I like that. Yeah. The one that jumped out at me is a short one, but they're coming, I think.
I know.
and that was Zara after she kind of peeked in on Wilfred and Miss Audrey in the night car room. And I'll admit that like the first time I watched it, and even the second time, I was like, who is that? Because she was in that hospitality uniform. And it wasn't until the second time that I went, oh, that's Zara.
Yeah, because it's a new thing. It's a new thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like also this thing that Pastor Logan said to Till. "Billions of souls have left us, Bess. It's because we're so few that the survivor's guilt feels hell unbearable." And I think that he's right.
Wow.
Because there are so few people, it feels even worse. Like life has become even more precious because there are not that many living souls left.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my last one is just Wilfred when he's announcing who's going to go over to Snowpiercer with him, and he announces Damien Ho. He says, "I like the cut of your jib, son." The way he talks sometimes is like so pompous and just arrogant and I love it. He's playing
Sean
it
Bean
so
is
well.
really doing a great job. I feel like the cast of this show in general is really well constructed, and the characters that they play match up really well. So like I said, I'm super excited to see what happens next.
Yes, very, very excited. So podcast recommendations. I have one or two here. We have to go back. Lost Revisited. That's a joint Podcastica and Next Level Online Network podcast. That's Ben and Kristen rewatching the show Lost. They are currently in season 4. And it's a really cool, if you're a Lost fan and you remember the series, they do a spoiler full where they're talking about everything that's going to happen, everything that has happened, and it's just a wonderful podcast. I love it. And then the Adrenaline Cinema, I think we talked about it last week, the Adrenaline Cinema with Mark. That's on Pirate Core Entertainment. He does podcasts where he does those with a special guest. He discusses those movies that get you blood pumping.
Sometimes his movies are similar to ones that we cover on Run for Your Lives because they run this fine line between action and monster and disaster. So it's kind of cool that way. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, so if you just... do you have any podcast recommendations?
I don't have anything. Because you've already this week listed ones that I listen to, so...
Alrighty. Well, as always, we can be heard on any podcast player of choice. I would love for you if you would go out there and give us a review if it's possible. You can check out our podcast, our website, which is panelstopixelspodcast.com. We've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/panelstopixels. And of course, as always, our trusty email address, panelstopixels1@gmail.com. Panelstopixels1, the TO spelled out right in the middle, the number 1 @gmail.com. And we also have a YouTube page, which is Panels to Pixels Podcast. Next week, we're going to continue our coverage of episode 5 of Snowpiercer season.
That is going to be fun. I can't wait to see what they give us next week.
Absolutely. Very excited. Hopefully maybe they'll go back and show us Melanie's journey.
I hope that they'll give us some insight into it. It would be nice.
Yeah. If it only took her 3 days, to get there, so. All right. Well, Daphne, where can our listeners hear you besides this podcast?
You can hear me on my weekly podcast, Run for Your Lives. Paik and I, as I mentioned last week, celebrated 25 episodes. The episode that's out now is our 26th episode, where we actually take a look back at the first 25 episodes and break down our top 5 monsters, characters, and movies. It was a lot of fun. And I look forward to the next 25 episodes that we're doing. So it's going to be great.
Absolutely. I know Mark and I had a lot of fun when we went over when we hit our 100th. It was quite a milestone. So
it's
very
crazy
cool.
how time flies. It's so crazy.
It is. It is. Well, as always, thanks everyone for listening. I'm Steve.
And I'm Daphne.
And this was Panels to Pixels, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night.